We are increasingly seeing what is an autocratic playbook unfold, an administration that actually is operating as if they will never be held accountable to the people. They are being held accountable. They're being held accountable by the people in court. They've been held accountable in elections. We're seeing it with the millions of people at the No Kings marches when the president's threatening people and millions are still showing up and saying, not on our watch are you going to take this country down this path. But I think that is going to be the fight that we're all going to have to be engaged in the days and months and years ahead.
Welcome to a special edition of Legal AF. As I promised, coming off the emergency temporary restraining order, the second one issued by Judge McConnell in Rhode Island to help 42 million people, to prevent them from starving because the president refuses to allow $8 billion of funding for SNAP anti-hunger payments to be paid out as ordered by this judge. It required another emergency hearing, which happened yesterday. And as promised, we have Skye Perryman from Democracy Forward, who's leading the charge in the Rhode Island case, representing groups like the Rhode Island State Council of Churches and other not-for-profits. This is the case right now that is on everybody's mind. And coming out of yesterday's hearing, there's already been developments all against the American people by Donald Trump. We had a win yesterday. And as I'm going to bring Skye in here in a minute, Skye's immediate statement was, this immoral and unlawful decision by the administration has shamefully delayed SNAP payments, taking food off the table of hungry families. We shouldn't have to force the president to care for his citizens, but we will do whatever is necessary. But not only do we have the order of 27 pages, we already have an attempt by Donald Trump to evade the order, to block the order, to have it stayed by the First Circuit Court of Appeals. I welcome Skye to Legal AF on Friday. Hi, Skye.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you as always.
Absolutely. And let's catch everybody up who might be joining this story already in progress. The judge issued an order from the bench yesterday, followed by a 27-page written temporary restraining order. I'll read from it in a little bit later, in which the judge effectively said that the Trump administration is playing fast and loose, is arbitrary and capricious, is harming Americans and making them suffer and not addressing their hunger, and is talking about agency double talk instead of actually funding, which he's ordered to happen by today at a time certain. Talk about how we got here with last week's orders and the new orders, and then what's happened even since the hearing yesterday and since this order in terms of blocking these payments to our most underprivileged Americans.
Yeah. So, we got here because the president is truly playing politics with people's lives. There's no other way around it. For days and weeks, he and administration officials claimed that they could not fund SNAP. We've actually never not had SNAP funded, even in government shutdowns. And the judge yesterday made that clear. They claimed that their hands were tied. They couldn't do it. We had to take them to court. The court was clear last Friday that not only did the Trump administration have the legal authority to pay SNAP benefits, but that they had an obligation under the law to do so, and that their dragging their feet was unlawful. That's what happened last Friday. On Monday, the Trump administration showed up to court and said it wanted to pay partial benefits, not full benefits. And as a result of that decision, it submitted its own documents that suggested that people in this country would have to wait weeks and in some cases months for their SNAP benefits. So just to make sure that we understand what that means, it means that a mom that needs to go to the grocery store to put food in the cabinet for her kids can't do so for a period of days and weeks. There's truly just no way of tolerating that. The court was clear in its first order that the administration needed to expeditiously resolve any issues so that people could get their SNAP benefits. They did not do so. And so yesterday we had fireworks in the court. We had a great team at Democracy Forward, and our co-counsel with the Lawyers Committee in Rhode Island were on the Zoom hearing yesterday. And the court just had a lot of questions for the government, said that the government had done nothing to comply with the order from the prior week and enforced that order so that people will get their SNAP benefits, and then made some further findings to require that the government pay full benefits. So that is what they are supposed to do today, but they have noticed an appeal. Now, an appeal does not stop a court order. And so right now there is a live court order that this administration must obey to ensure that people in communities get their SNAP benefits. And that's what we're really focused on. We also have confidence that what the government has done here is so unlawful, it will be upheld on appeal.
And you said fireworks. To give our audience a little bit of color. From the reporting for people that were in the room, it sounds like the lawyer for the Department of Justice got a little, what's the phrase I'm looking for, a little pissy at times, was a little defiant, got his back up in front of a federal judge. What's your understanding as to what happened in the courtroom when you say fireworks?
Yeah, I mean, I think the judge really, and this is what we've seen with judges across the nation, but the judges are very concerned when the government feels as if it is optional to do what they say in their court orders. And so you saw the judge really pushing that yesterday in the courtroom, asking questions, probing questions, and really knowing and saying that judge made very clear last Friday that time was of the essence, that the irreparable harm was already occurring, that there was no time for the administration to drag its feet. And so we saw, we sort of heard that at the hearing yesterday. The good news for 42 million Americans is that the courts are continuing to call it like it is. And this is an unlawful effort. The judge was very clear. This is the first time in United States history, that SNAP benefits have lapsed. I mean, it's unconscionable.
Let me read for our audience some of the quotes from the written order that came out yesterday from the judge. From page 2, it is estimated that 42 million individuals, approximately 1 in 8 Americans, rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This includes 14 million children, 8 million elderly, and 1.2 million veterans. A core mission of the United States Department of Agriculture is to ensure that American children are properly nourished, yet their decision to not feed hungry Americans through SNAP leaves this court to address the issues the agency has failed to resolve. While the President of the United States professes a commitment to helping those it serves, the government's actions tell a different story. Faced with a choice between advancing relief and entrenching delay, it chose the latter, an outcome that predictably magnifies harm and undermines the very purpose of the program it administers. Such conduct is more than poor judgment. It is arbitrary and capricious. One cannot champion the public interest while simultaneously adopting policies that frustrate it. Discretion exercised in this manner ceases to be discretion at all. It becomes obstruction cloaked in administrative formality. Accordingly, intervention is necessary. I mean, that's some powerful words from this judge.
Words.
Yep. And what the way I read the order is he's saying your decision to arbitrarily partially fund has created your own crisis of weeks and months of delay. It's only weeks and months of delay, which is what Mr. Penn wrote in his declaration, because you're going through an exercise of trying to figure out how to make 56% payments through a table and a schedule given to the states who have never had to make partial payments before. Here's an idea. Top it up to $8 billion, take the funds from the other programs that you've identified, and then you don't have an administrative delay problem.
Well, and the judge last week on Friday in his order was quite clear. If the government wanted to go down the path of partial funding, it had to ensure there was expeditious payments, which it didn't do. And so I think that you see the judge, being crystal clear again about what's required in this moment. And, incredibly upset that we yesterday were 6 days into the month. And you're talking about that's almost a full week where people haven't gotten the benefits that they need.
6 days of no milk in the refrigerator, no eggs, no nutrition for people who are most fragile. Here's what the judge says as he leads into his argument that any of this arguments that are being made in his courtroom are obviously pretextual, and he points to actual social media postings by Donald Trump against their position that they're taking in court. He says on page 23, contrary to what the defendants claim, because at one point they're arguing, well, we can't take it from the child nutrition funds because bad things will happen if we do that. He says, contrary to what the defendants claim, 29 million children who participate in the child nutrition program are not at risk of immediately going hungry in the event of a transfer of Section 32 funds, which are these customs funds, which could be used to top up the payments here. Instead, Instead, SNAP recipients, 16 million of whom are children, will go hungry if they do not receive the SNAP benefits this month. And then he goes into the postings by Trump about it and agreeing with your argument that this is all just a pretext.
And, the backstory there is on Monday, we went in after the government filed its paper. I guess Tuesday morning, we went into court to say, under the government's own telling, people are going to have to wait way too long. That is not compliant with the court order, and ask the court to enforce the order, which is what the hearing was on yesterday. About an hour after we filed that paper on Tuesday, Trump goes and takes to social media and starts admitting that what he is doing is playing politics with people's lives, and says, I am not going to pay these benefits out because of these political issues. We actually took that and went back to the court and said, we want to draw the court's attention to this posting, which we did believe, and the court agreed yesterday, supported the argument that the team had been making in the paper. So I just want to lift up the team at Democracy Forward. This is not legal work that happens just between 9 and 5. This team has been working around the clock, starting with the crisis the government created last week to get on file, to get that court order, monitoring the situations of our plaintiffs that are all over the country on the ground, getting back into court, having to prepare for this hearing. And then now, of course, we are ready for what the government is putting out there, trying to appeal and get out from under this. We truly have a team that is not going to rest until people get these benefits. And they've just done a tremendous job. And
that makes our audience feel so much better, knowing that your team is on the ground and focused with the energy that's required to oppose a rogue Department of Justice and Trump administration. Here's just at the end here. This is the statement that Donald Trump made that you ran into court with, your people ran into court with. This is after his Treasury Secretary went on Sunday morning talk shows and said they were making the payments.
Right.
He then comes out and says, SNAP benefits, which increased by billions and billions of dollars, many-fold during crooked Joe Biden's disastrous term in office due to the fact that they were haphazardly handed to anyone for the asking, as opposed, another run-on, to adjust those in need, which is the purpose of SNAP, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open up government, which they can easily do, and not before. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President DJT. I mean, just complete callous indifference to making people political hostage to his machinations, while a mother can't feed her loved one, child, disabled person, veteran in their home.
Yeah. And remember the scenes, the Mar-a-Lago scenes, right? So last weekend, as we had people, lawyers, we represent churches, we represent food kitchens, we represent workers that work every day, but that nevertheless have to rely on SNAP because of what their wages are and the cyclical employment. All of these people are working to make sure that we can secure basic nutrition for people across the country. And then, of course, Trump is at Mar-a-Lago having this great Gatsby party. There's been a series of projections here throughout Washington on federal buildings and things that are saying, that are really shining a light on that hypocrisy. That is, it's unlawful what the administration's doing. It's also immoral. And that's not a word we use all the time at Democracy Forward, but this is really there's not a single ethical, moral, religious, spiritual, secular tradition that I'm aware of that says that you turn your back on people like this administration has done. And I think that people are really feeling that, of all different stripes across the country.
Agreed. I think election night showed that you can't build golden ballrooms and marble bathrooms and Great Gatsby, let them eat cake moments and have Americans suffer. He actually posted that one I just read, that he trolled the poor on election day.
Yeah. And right. And so the broader point, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, when we have more conversation, is that we are increasingly seeing what is an autocratic playbook unfold, an administration that actually is operating as if they will never be held accountable to the people. They are being held accountable. They're being held accountable by the people in court. They've been held accountable in elections. We're seeing it with the millions of people at the No Kings marches when the president's threatening people and millions are still showing up and saying, not on our watch are you going to take this country down this path. But I think that is going to be the fight that we're all going to have to be engaged in the days and months and years ahead.
And lastly, Skye, I know you have so much work to do today with your hundreds of cases, including this one still not we still haven't accomplished what you want to accomplish, which is getting people fed, which is what the judge wants to accomplish. We have a motion that's now been filed with the First Circuit Court of Appeals because, as you said to me coming onto the air today, Judge McConnell rejected the oral request to stay his order to give the Trump administration time to pay. That means the Trump administration trying to block payments to poor and underprivileged people. It's up at the First Circuit, and I assume there'll be some sort of briefing and a ruling by the First Circuit soon?
Well, we'll see. I mean, what the First Circuit does. I think the main thing is there's a live court order right now that this administration needs to be complying with right now that is unequivocal. We are very confident, of course, that what the administration's done is unlawful, that the courts will continue to see it that way. We also want to make sure the American people are paying attention. This is the president who had his associates out on social media and on media for weeks saying we would pay these benefits if we could. They've now not only been told that they could, they've been told that they must. And they are appealing that because they do not want American people to be served. That is shocking even for this administration. It is believable yet unbelievable. And that is, what is going to motivate our team to continue to stay in the courts and in communities until we can make sure people get what they need.
And as you said, coming out of the court yesterday, that no one should have to force the president to care for his citizens, but we will do whatever is necessary to protect people and communities. And the only way out for the president right now, and for him not to defy a federal court order, is to pay the full $8 billion today to American families. Right,
which is there, available. The courts have said it needs to happen, and he needs to do it.
All right, this is a story we're going to stay closely. And thank you for being with us, Skye Perryman of Democracy Forward. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.